But I mean, did you see the geomagnetic storm in the sky? Because you're farther north than I am.
Yeah, so we actually we I don't have I have the pictures on my phone. I could actually probably upload them to like or send them to you in Discord kind of thing. But we drove out to Valley View and we actually got a couple decent pictures. Like it wasn't like the red or the pink like a lot of people saw, but it was like a purple greenish kind of color. But we actually got some decent pictures. I mean, it was like it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, "Do you want to go out and get pictures?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay."
You got
Like
to do it for the gram.
yeah, because like 30 minutes later, like when it was already almost midnight, I was like, "Why did I do this? I'm so tired." And but yeah, so we got a few pictures, and then some other people got some photos too. Like a lot of people were driving up to Gainesville, so like the traffic was pretty bad, and I was like, "Okay, well, we're not going all the way up there." So, but no,
Where's Valley View at? I've heard the name, but
it's in between Sanger and Gainesville. So
okay.
as you're going through Sanger, then you hit Valley View, and then you hit Gainesville. So we took like a little back road, and we went down towards Lake Ray Roberts, and just went way out there, way as far as we could go, so to speak. But yeah, we got a couple of decent pictures though. I mean, it was cool. I was more so for me personally. On Friday, like, because I hurt my neck, a few months back. And so, like, my muscles and stuff in my neck were, like, hurting bad. And I was like, dude, what's going on? And then apparently a lot of people were complaining of headaches and all this other kind of stuff because of the the electromagnetic storm and stuff like that. Like, it was causing a lot of people grief.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like, people were getting headaches. People were getting, like, it was, like, when it rains and your joints ache.
Yeah.
It was something similar to that, but it was like headaches, migraines, like it was like destabilizing your whole your own magnetic field essentially.
I've heard that can be a thing. Like I've read that in a bunch of like the tweets and articles and etc. But I've never heard someone specifically say like, yeah, I felt this. And so I don't think about it too much. Like I know it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you felt it yourself. Like you knew something was a little off.
Well, like, yeah, because, I mean, there are some days where I'll wake up and I'll have muscle stiffness from the injury that I had. Like, I'm still kind of working stuff out, going to the chiropractor. Like, it's been a long process. Well, like, all day Friday, I was like, why is my neck hurting so bad? Like, it felt more, like, discomforting than usual. And so I went to the chiropractor I woke up the next morning, completely fine. Like, I still went to the chiropractor, but I woke up the next morning completely fine. No pain, nothing. I was like, what the heck?
Wait, and that was Saturday?
No, it was Saturday morning I woke up. So like Friday, I was in pain, I was hurting, and then I woke up Saturday perfectly fine. Still went to the chiropractor, but I felt fine all day Saturday. No pain, nothing.
Okay, so what I'm thinking over here is, if I remember correctly, and I'll look it up to try to fact check myself on this. So like the geomagnetic storm that caused all the, like, was it the aurora borealis, the aurora lights?
Yeah.
The vast majority of North America saw it, but the coronal mass ejection, or the CMEs from the sun that caused that, if I remember correctly, that happened Friday. But because light only travels so fast, like we didn't see it until Saturday. Or I guess we saw it, was it Friday night when we?
No. So you could see it Friday, you could see it Saturday, and then I think the storm lasted so long that they said it was possible to potentially see it on tonight, on Sunday night. Which, for those of you watching, we're in Central Time, so obviously some of you might be ahead or behind, whatever the case, or on the opposite side of the world where it's just now becoming daytime. But yeah, we would have been able to possibly see it tonight too. So
yeah, I was wondering. I saw people, so like I'm in the Austin area for those listening, and I saw some people were posting photos like just outside the city, I think because of the light pollution. And then if you get a little bit west of Austin, you hit the hill country, so you get higher elevation to kind of see a little further over the horizon. And they saw a little bit of like purplish, kind of the deep red look, maybe something similar to what you saw, just probably a little lighter. I'm still, okay, let's circle back to this though. So you said you went to the chiropractor, so I'm sure that helped, but you said you actually felt better?
Well, like, it's not that I felt better because of all this stuff, but it's just like some days I'll wake up and I'll have some discomfort, but for some reason Friday, like I guess it was just like it had built up, but even then it's like shouldn't have been that bad. Like I've been having some kind of muscle issues, like when I turn my neck one way, it'll kind of hurt. Today I feel fine. Like I've been working on a lot of muscular issues. I've had, like I said, when I hurt my neck, like I hurt it bad. Like I had low key before I even got on, like earlier today, before I even got on here, I pulled a muscle in my lower back. Like, don't know how I did it. I bent over to pick up one of our cats and I pulled a muscle in my back. So it's like I'm closer to that 30, that 30 range, and gotta take care of myself. Yeah, I gotta start stretching.
Don't they say something like your body, like once you turn, is like, I think it's like 26 or 27, like your body literally starts to deteriorate after that point. Like it's definitely, unless you keep it up.
Yeah, and I mean, I work out, but it's just like, I felt fine. I bent over to pick up one of my cats, and then I felt like this, like, muscle pull, and then I was like, this is not good.
You knew, like, this is not supposed to feel this way.
This is not supposed to feel this way. But yeah, so, like, I woke up Friday, and I knew I was already going to have some, like, muscle discomfort because that's just how it's been. But for some reason, like, the joints of my neck were hurting a lot more than what they usually were. You know, like, there was just more discomfort. You know how, like, I don't know if you pop your knuckles every so often. Like, I don't know if you do that kind of stuff.
I'm so guilty of, like, popping knuckles. Like, I will just do that subconsciously, and I'm sure I annoy people with it.
Yeah. So you know, like, what it feels like when you have, like, a pop that just doesn't happen? You know, like, you can feel the pop there, but it's just not popping.
Yeah, you got to double tap it.
Yeah. That's how my neck was feeling. And so, but then you add on that, so it's like, I want to pop it. I can sometimes kind of turn my head now and I'll feel like a little crack or a pop in my neck. But I was just feeling all this discomfort. And then she came home that evening and she was like, yeah, a lot of people were like, apparently there was a bunch of people complaining about like migraines, headaches, body pain, like all kinds of stuff. Like, and I was like, well, that's probably why my neck was so jacked up today. And then went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I didn't feel the same way I felt the day before. And so it was just one of those things.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So I just did a quick Google for geomagnetic storms and headaches. I'm finding there's a bunch of academic papers. I'm looking at one. It was just the first one that popped up from an organization, and the title of it is Geomagnetic Storms and Their Influence on the Human Brain Functional State. It's a long, lengthy paper. It's got like an abstract, like one of those papers. So I don't feel like diving into it. It's got some CAT scan images as well, but it looks like, a geomagnetic radiation can disrupt the body's circadian rhythm, nervous system, heart rate, and blood pressure. Wow. Okay. So that's a real thing.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I wonder, so have you ever heard of grounding? Like the idea of like being grounded, like with your body. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, if this is similar or almost like an inverse of that. Like, if it's helping or hurting. Like, I understand, like, a headache could be viewed as like a bad thing, but at some point, is it like because your body's not used to having an electromagnetic pulse going through it, and then you're basically going from like 0 to 1,000, and that 1,000 is what's giving you a headache?
Well, that's the thing. So remember, it's probably like a couple episodes back. This is like kind of before we started recording, but I told you I tried out like a new therapy, the sound therapy.
Yes.
So, and this is a science lesson, a very mild science lesson for anyone out there listening.
Hold on. So we got to say, please consider the following.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now we go. But everyone is different. So everyone has a frequency for their body. So it's like your cells, everything is like, you know, electrons, like your body runs on a electromagnetic pulse kind of thing, in a sense, where it's just like your body's magnetized, but your body is also electrified because it sends signals everywhere throughout your body. Well, everyone is on a different frequency. So like you're on a different frequency than I am. How this therapy works is they use a giant magnet. They place the magnet on your, like wherever your body's at, like the magnet can reach 3 feet in any direction. So in my case, they put it on my chest because it was my upper back of my neck. Well, they also use red lights, like or like ultraviolet lights and all this other kind of stuff. And they use a bed that vibrates. They even have to put one of those bracelets on you too that like demagnetizes your body just in case.
Dude, the bed, do you have to put the quarters in it, or how does that?
Oh no! See, like it's just a button, you know.
Yeah. This is a whole get up though. This is like a whole.
Yeah, no, like this is a whole thing, and like the bed actually like sends like vibrations through. Like it'll start vibrating lightly, then it'll go heavy, then it'll go light, and you're listening to music at the same time. But essentially, what that they have that bed on a frequency that goes in tune with everything else, and it's supposed to essentially reset your body back into its natural rhythm. So what I'm thinking, so when you get a headache or when you have something wrong, like pain in your body, it's because you did something that knocked off your circadian rhythm or something in your body that is knocked off its natural course. My guess is that the storm knocked people off their rhythm, and that's where the headaches were coming from, the body aches, all this other kind of thing. That's kind of how I'm perceiving it as.
That makes sense. The music that you were listening to, was it something of your choice, or was it more, not like brown noise or white noise, but I know I'm forgetting the term of it. There's a type of music that they have where it literally uses, was it bipedal notes or bipedal rhythms, where it's like scientifically proven to,
gotcha,
like,
yeah,
your
so
mind working or at a steady state. I'm doing a poor job describing what that is. I think it's bipedal.
No, you're good.
Anyways,
so it's a faith-based family that, you know, like the guy, he went through like this program, also that kind of stuff. Not gonna get into it, all that kind of stuff. That's his personal business. But he went through this program, you know. Then they developed this therapy because he used parts of the therapy that they do now on himself when he had cancer. And let's just say that he quit going to chemotherapy because the treatment that he did actually cured his cancer. And so it was more of like a not white noise or brown noise, but it was like nature type noises, like, you know, waves and things, like, you know, like you're on a beach and stuff like that, like kind of stuff like that. They have different variations of that kind of stuff, but that's just kind of what he put me on, because it's supposed to calm you at the same time. So you're listening to something that's calming your body, that's just kind of just letting your body do its thing, and then you're just letting all this other kind of stuff do what it needs to do. So, like, yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because the other thing I was thinking of is Nikola Tesla, and a lot of people, even to this day, they'll still talk about how, and this is kind of viewed as like kooky science, like not mainstream academia science, but how all matter has its own frequency. Like it's everything, rather all matter, basically, literally everything has its own vibration, its own frequency, like you said. So it's not even just the human body, like literally everything has its own frequency. And if you're able to identify and or tune into that, you're able to manipulate it in honestly ways that I'm not aware of. But I do know that was something that Nikola Tesla was very much looking into, and a lot of people since then. And there's a lot of conspiracy around that as well, such as like, well, if you can tune into that, you can create infinite energy to where you don't have to truly exhaust resources to generate energy or power. So it's interesting. It's an interesting approach that gentleman's taking. It almost sounds like he's taking, and obviously I don't know about anything like this, but it almost sounds like he's taking like 5 or 10 different versions of a similar technique and almost like creating like a super drug for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like everything you said that he had done, I've heard of it happening separately, but maybe not all together simultaneously.
Yeah.
It also sounds super comfortable. It sounds like a good
dude,
like
I was only
experience.
I was on that over 30 minutes, and like when everything went off, I was like, darn, like I was about to be out, like if I could have stayed there. But no, like, and I think that's what that storm did, was that's why a lot of people probably had those issues like they had, is because, you know, everyone's rhythm got knocked off from that, because it's a heck of a lot of a different frequency, and probably multiple frequencies that knocked off other people off their natural frequency, in which case caused that stuff to happen. So
yeah, and I saw, like, for those listening, and if for some reason you just totally missed like the news on this, there was a giant geomagnetic storm that happened this weekend. Like right now we're recording May 12th. It's a Sunday evening, I guess nighttime technically at this point. But over the weekend, North America and parts of Northern Europe and I think Russia, all experienced this giant geomagnetic storm. Like so much so that the NOAA, which is what does that stand for? Was it the National? Hang on, I'm going to look up that acronym because I always forget it. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They labeled it as a G5, which is the strongest like label you can apply to a geomagnetic storm. The last time we had one this strong was 2003.
Yep.
So it's been a while. And the wild thing was, I remember Friday night, Abby, my wife, and I we were watching. What were we watching? I think we were watching Supernatural. She's gotten me onto that recently. Have you ever watched Supernatural?
I haven't.
Dude, it's so good. It's got 15 seasons, so there's a lot of content to watch. We're only in season 4 at this point. But we're sitting there watching it, and I just was casually browsing X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, and I follow a lot of news accounts just to keep up with the real ongoings of the world. And I saw a bunch of my alternative news accounts referencing this storm, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I know we've had geomagnetic storms happen. They do all the time. Some are big, some are small. But when I started to see that they labeled it the maximum rating you could rate it, I was like, huh, let me look a little deeper in this. And I was looking at some of the other news I was getting posted. And before it actually hit, late Friday night, there were actual concerns about, would this take radio offline? Would this take cellular networks offline? Would this take our satellites offline? And I know even Elon Musk tweeted directly because Starlink, his remote internet satellites, there's thousands of satellites up there for Starlink that can beam internet all over the world. They had a degrade. They had to degrade their service because of the storm that hit. And there was a moment where I was sitting there and I turned to Abby and I was like, I literally paused it. I paused it in the middle of an episode, didn't give her any context while I was pausing. I turned to her and I was like, let me read into this real quick. Because I'm like, either it's about to be a normal Friday night, or I'm like, I think something bad might be happening within the next couple hours. I had to really do some due diligence research because I'm like, they're rating a solar storm the maximum rating. If any other storm that you hear of, whether it be a hurricane, a tornado, just a thunderstorm, once they give it a maximum rating, you're supposed to pay attention to it, right? Because people die typically.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, what is going to happen? And so all Friday night, I was kind of checking my phone. I was like, okay. We were streaming Supernatural. It was on Netflix. So we're like, okay, internet's still here. Internet hasn't gone down yet. But yeah, for maybe an hour and a half, I was legitimately worried there for a bit that.
Well, I don't know if you noticed though, but if you look at your internet bars, every so often your internet bars, it'll go down. It won't be the full service. Because I've noticed that. I've got a Wi-Fi extender, and we've got gig speed internet. So it's we don't have fiber optic, but we've got really good internet.
Yeah.
But also too, I don't know if you know though, but if you had which I'm the way that they worded this, if you have the right glasses, I'm like, okay, what are the right glasses? Because nobody owns any of these. But if you had this specific type of glasses, you could look at the sun, which I don't know if they're meaning the solar eclipse glasses, because my wife tried looking at the sun with those and she couldn't see it. But the solar flare that came off the sun to cause this was so large that you could actually see it from Earth with those glasses. It was massive.
Yes. It was funny. I was actually just scrolling through my liked tweets again just to find the exact tweets I initially found talking about what was going down. Where was the one? There was one that had a bunch of stats in it, and I can't find it anymore. But yeah, there was one I saw of the video of the actual sun flare happening, the CME, the coronal mass ejection, and it's just what's wild is, so what makes me curious is, so we just went through one that they provided the maximum rating to, right? But I also know about one historical called the Carrington Event, and I might have brought this up on a prior podcast where I think it was I have the Wikipedia page. I think it was 1859. Yeah, 1859.
Yeah.
They had basically one of these happen, but it took out all of the telegraph lines. It fried it. And there's stories of, a telegraph, it's basically Morse code or thing going through the wires, and then there's someone on the other end that waits for the paper to get spit out with the message that just got sent on basically the telephone wires before telephone. And there were stories of the storm was so strong. Not only did it take the lines offline, it basically fried the lines to where when it was printing on the paper caught on fire. Like as it was coming out of the machine, it like, I need to like read up again on like specifically what caused it to catch fire. But that event has always stuck in my mind because I learned about it, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago, knowing that could happen again because we haven't had one, at least that I'm aware of, as strong as the Carrington event, at least in North America, because it could hit other parts of the globe. But I thought whenever I read it was going to be like a G5 rated, I'm like, oh, snap. Like, this is like it. Like, we were worried about World War III over here, and the sun's going to be the one to have the last laugh, and it's going to knock everything offline.
Well, that's what kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I feel like a lot of companies, like, a lot of people, you know, just take it at face value. But there are probably people out there who are like, yo, like, what if we got hit by another one? Like, what if one was to happen like this week or next week? Like, could we take another one of those? Like, and it really gets you thinking on that because it's like there's so many people that like they're like, so when are the cell phones going out? Like, when are we going to lose all communication with each other? And I'm like, I mean, you got a point, but I don't know when that could happen. I don't know roughly how strong that infrastructure is for us. I just know, though, that there's plenty of people out there that talk about, you know, their biggest fear is that all of our telecommunications is going to go out. Like, the whole, like, infrastructure of technology is essentially just going to crash first. But what's going to cause that? And the fact that they've already seen glitches in, like, internet services. I'm honestly surprised our internet just didn't go out. Like, I am thoroughly surprised our internet just was still here.
What do y'all have? Is it Spectrum?
We have Frontier.
Frontier. Okay. Yeah. I could totally see a front like going out. Like
if we had Spectrum, it probably would have. That's why we got Frontier. Because Spectrum,
I had that. Man. So almost coming up on a year now. Well, now my wife. At the time I moved in, girlfriend, and then within that month, fiance. But before I moved in to where she lived, I had AT&T gigabit, like fiber optic internet. It was got like multiple gigabits up and down. It was beautiful. And then we had to move over here, which is nice. It's like 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-story home in a nice old established neighborhood. But the vein of my existence was it only had Spectrum. Like Spectrum was the only service provider available in the entire neighborhood. Thank God Google Fiber came in. Now we have Google Fiber. But before that, like, man, Spectrum is such a terrible service. I don't understand how they still exist. I mean, I know how they still exist, but it's terrible.
Terrible. I can't do it. They wanted to charge us like, I think our internet was $75 a month for like 200. I think it was like 250, 300 megs. And then a guy came over from Frontier, like one of those door knockers, and he was like, "Hey, check this out. I can get you gig speed internets for, I think it was like $75 a month, and then it was going to go up to $80 for like after that first year." And I was like, "Dude, where do I sign?" I was like, "Let's get this." And so I canceled charter, and they were like, "Oh, well, we can get you gig speed internets." And I was like, "Yeah, it's going to cost me like $100+ a month through you guys. Like, I can get this for $75 a month."
Here's what's wild though. So whenever I moved in, she had basically the same thing you had, and then I worked from home, so I was like, no, I want top tier, baby. Like, I don't want any excuses about lag here. And so I paid for us to get Spectrum's version of gigabit speed, which was even questionable because it technically wasn't fiber optic. And I'm like, okay, mathematically, how are you pumping through a gigabyte worth of data in a coax cable? I don't understand that, first of all. I think that was smoke and mirrors on their part. But anyways, they charged, like you said, an arm and a leg. And whenever Google Fiber came in, and I called Spectrum to finally cancel it, they were willing to bring the price all the way down to, if I remember correctly, $35 a month for a gigabyte up and down. And they were like, hey, if you don't like Google Fiber, you're welcome to come back and you'll have this like available to you at any point. And while, yes, $35 is like highway robbery, I feel, for me to have gigabit speeds, I'd rather have any other service provider than them. So I'm not going to utilize it. But it goes to show they were still going to make a profit off of me, even at $35. So how much does it really cost them to service you a gigabyte worth of internet? It's probably like $10, if that.
Yeah. And so, But that I'm just overall just internet. Like I'm surprised the internet didn't go out. I'm surprised that we didn't have more issues than what we did. Like, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised people didn't go buy all the toilet paper. Like I'm surprised people just didn't flood the stores. Like we're all gonna die. It's like no, we're not, because that just shows you where people's priorities are. Cell phones, like all the cell phone towers were going down. People were like, oh my god, I don't have my cell phone. And then a geomagnetic storm hits, and they're like, down, we're following it. It's like that could cause more than anything, really. So it's like I don't get it.
Yeah,
anyway,
you'll never get it. The one thing I did see that may cause toilet paper shortages is, did you see that they're shutting down sriracha production through the end of summertime? Like you know, like how you can get like different types of sriracha, but you know, like the main like Hui Feng sriracha bottle,
yeah,
like the stereotypical one. They're gonna like stop making it for the next like 5 months, like just altogether, no wholesale orders, nothing to retail. And so I made a joke on Twitter about how like this is a good reason to panic and overbuy toilet paper now that sriracha is going to be running out. You got to get your toilet paper too. But to circle back on the whole storm situation, one thing I was looking at, do you know how big that sun flare was that happened? Like in terms of land mass, do you know how big that was?
I want to say it was like on par with like, it was bigger than our planet. I know that.
Do you want to guess how much bigger? Guess how many widths of the Earth that was.
I'm going to say it was probably about 10 Earths.
Close. 17.
17? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was double digits. I just can't remember what it was because I saw something about that.
Yeah, it said, so the one that Friday night, the massive sunspot had a width of 17 Earths that spewed solar flares leading to a geomagnetic storm, activity reaching level 5, extreme conditions. That's a lot. That's huge. Like if you think about it, like, oh yeah, that's like that is, if I were to read that without now knowing we just experienced it, I'd be buying toilet paper.
Right.
And I'm not the one to go buy toilet paper typically, like that.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's insane, that the fact that, so like, which is weird though, because we've been seeing like, you know, if you've noticed over the course of this year, and I think maybe part of last year, one of the biggest talks is all the solar flares that have been happening. Like the sun has been the big talk of what's been going on and what's been happening with a lot of stuff. They're like, oh, the sun is causing, you know, the cell phone tower outages, the internet outages, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden the one time that this massive solar flare happens, and then everyone's just not even batting an eye at it. They're like, ooh, pretty lights, because it caused a, you know, scientific, you know, I can't even think of the term.
I know what you mean though. Yeah, it caused like a fragments, things in the sky.
Yeah, all that stuff like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it blows my mind where people's priorities are at in that, but that is what it is.
It does make me wonder though, like you mentioned, is the sun ramping up to even have more of these? Like, I could be totally wrong on this, but I feel like I remember reading once that we don't necessarily know when these happen. We can observe them and then extrapolate from that, but like we don't know when one's just gonna happen. We see it happen, and then we're like, oh, okay, within X amount of hours, it'll basically hit landfall, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
But like, what if this is just like the start of like some more, you know, like it's, because it wasn't just the one. It happened Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is today. Like, who's not to say it's like an earthquake where you're going to have more rumblings down the road too. Like, I know Friday was probably the big one. That was the big kahuna for this one. But what if there's like another one next weekend or even Tuesday?
Well, like, here's my thing. So like, for those of you who don't know, and we could probably pull something up here, but it's like when you look at the Earth and versus the sun, the Earth has a magnetic field around it. So like, it's not just like your atmosphere, your stratosphere, like all that. It has an actual magnetic field out in outer space that protects us from stuff like this. So it's like, you know, when a solar flare hits and it comes at us, the Earth essentially just like rolls over and it shoots it out the other side, essentially. Like, it doesn't actually hit us. Now, the kicker here, it kind of followed up with what you said. Like, what if this is just something bigger? Now, Again, I'm not going to get biblical on it because in the Bible it does say that the earth was destroyed by water first. The second time it was destroyed by fire. And all I'm saying is it only takes like a set number of solar flares to destroy that magnetic field, or to where that magnetic field cannot handle that much like solar pressure. And all of a sudden now we got nothing. Like we got nothing to protect us from that, meaning like that heat can just hit us and burn things away, and we won't be protected for it. Like we have our atmospheres, but I have a feeling that would burn straight through the atmosphere because it's literally coming off the sun. Now, we've talked about this in a previous episode, but like, I don't know if you remember being back in like grade school, but like they were always telling people like, oh, well, the sun has like 5 billion more years before it, collapses on itself and is, it's gone. Obviously, we won't be here by then, but what if this is the case of, what we're seeing now? Like if we have so many more of these solar flares, like what does that actually do to the sun when it has all those solar flares that happen like that? Like what scientifically is going on with the sun to cause that to happen?
And I think some of this, at least in my opinion, goes back to, I think when I jokingly grilled you on, I think it was one of the top 10 doomsday scenarios, and it was, the black hole, talking about how when a star goes supernova, then it implodes and becomes a black hole, yada yada. I kind of jokingly pushed back and I was like, well, how the heck do we know? We've never seen one. This is all scientific theory, which I understand. Science, there's a systematic approach to it. You have a hypothesis, you prove the hypothesis, or you have the best working hypothesis. Then if something better comes along, you revise it. I get it. But no one's been around to see what happens with this. We've never seen it happen. So how do we know? How do we know the timeline on this? We don't.
Right.
I'll be the one to put my foot down. We don't. We have a good guess, but we don't know for sure.
And how long has the sun currently been around for?
How the heck do we even know that? First of all,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But let's Google this one real quick. How old is the sun?
Because the sun, like obviously dinosaurs, and so what that means the sun's already been around for billions of years.
Yeah. Like, apparently. Okay. This is some nonsense. Let's think this one through here for a second. Apparently, and here, I'll share my screen so for the kids at home that are in video land can see this as well. So I'm not some kook living in my basement. So I just Googled, how old is the sun? And we're going to trust our life to Google because most everyone does these days. Apparently, the sun is 4.6 billion years old. Billion with a B. But get this, boys and girls. The Earth, 4.5 or 4.54, and the Moon, 4.53. So I don't remember this from like science class. I would have assumed the Earth would have came way later than the sun. I truly am drawing a blank on like what mainstream like K-12 education in the state of Texas taught me on that aspect of I'm sure someone out there is making a joke of like, yeah, they taught you creationism. I was like, okay, yeah, they still taught us the Big Bang Theory. But like even under the Big Bang Theory, which there's so many holes we poked in that one, but like only like a tenth of a billion of a year, which I feel like there should be more time between that.
I mean,
but what
there's always like, there's always been this ongoing like debate about like, science versus religion and things like that, or science versus like, this all-powerful entity known as God. And so like, because like I was actually curious, I was like, how long have dinosaurs been alive? And it says 252 to 66 million years ago. Now obviously 66 million being far less than the 4 point something billion, but it kind of blows my mind though, because like how did the Earth exactly, the way it was already shaped up, like where did the dinosaurs come from? How did the first dinosaur get there? Like we're getting way off track now. Questions are being asked, but no answers are being found.
No, it's a great question though. I mean, have you ever heard, this is a fun theory, and emphasis on fun. Have you heard the theory that like dinosaurs aren't real? Have you heard that theory? It's a pretty wild theory. I want to pull something up real quick, since we're gonna stay on theme here with Unscripted Company, because Lord knows we started with an electromagnetic storm. Now we're talking about dinosaurs.
But this is where the magic happens, though. So buckle up, boys and girls.
Yeah. Like, okay. So the biggest thing, let me make sure I get my monitor right here. Let me pull this image up so you don't see anything other than what I want you to see, because it's going to be a test. Okay. So let's play a game with the boys and girls at home too, those that are part of the Unscripted Company. But Riley, you're going to be playing on behalf of them. Are you ready? There's going to be a lot of pressure on you. This is like talk radio when you call in and you play a game and you're nervous, etc.
All right.
Okay. Whenever like a paleontologist, which is, those that work amongst the fossils of the dinosaur, they have a tough job, because first of all, not only are they trying to find, dig up, analyze, but also reconstruct what these bones of a dinosaur, how they should fit together. It's a weird puzzle. You're trying to put together a creature you've never seen before, nor do we have photographs or really too much evidence of outside of the bones and like footprints and stuff or tracks. So how do we know for certain, based on the skeletal structure, that dinosaurs really were dinosaurs? And the reason I ask that is I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you a skeleton, and I want you to tell me which dinosaur it is based on the skeleton, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen. You should see it here momentarily.
Okay, I'm a little nervous right now.
What dinosaur is this?
Heck? That doesn't even look like a dinosaur, if I'm being honest.
What do you think it is?
That's a beaver.
It is a bunny rabbit.
Oh, okay. The way the front two teeth is what got me, because it looked like a. Okay, so I was close.
You were in the mammalian family looking at things, but it's just something, I don't know. I saw someone made like a meme out of that not too long ago on social media somewhere, and I was like, it's a good point, because you see a skeleton of a dinosaur and you're like, okay, like I get it, it's a dinosaur, but also we don't have that much skin to work with to really understand. Like, I know we have found some where there is some skin on it, but it's also like, how do we know?
I mean, there's a current, I don't know if this is true, because obviously, again, it's scientists saying one thing and us saying another, but apparently there's been talks that they've actually found a woolly mammoth like enclosed in ice, and they're currently trying to study it to get its DNA so they can replicate it. And I'm like, y'all really want to try to do this stuff right now? Like, we got so many issues.
There's a company in Austin, actually, that's working on doing that. I think was it a woolly mammoth and like a saber-toothed tiger?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's in Austin. Colossal Biosciences is a Texas-based biotechnology company, is working to clone a woolly mammoth by combining its genes with Asian elephant DNA. But yeah, and also like in Waco, like in Central Texas, they have that, like the woolly mammoth national heritage site where they found hundreds, if not thousands, of like woolly mammoth carcasses, basically, that they're digging up too. So I don't know how we went down this.
I don't either.
For lack of a better term, a rabbit hole of a rabbit skeleton. But
no, I mean,
do you think the magnetic storm's going on outside right now? Like, I can't see it from where I'm at, but
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I could probably look up on Facebook, and people that I know that live, north of where we live at would probably be able to know. Now, they did say like other parts of of the United States and North America could see it, even if Texas couldn't see it, because it obviously came down on the North Pole and worked its way down. Now again, I mean, I kind of stand on the stance where it's like, what if another G5 rated one was to happen, like back to back? Like, realistically, they may not do anything, but what if? There's always that what if, because it's stuff that's out of our control. We can't control what happens with that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and going back to that one movie that you keep trying to get me to watch, and I still haven't watched it yet, but my mother-in-law is also trying to get to watch it. Was it Leave the World Behind? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got. Is it Sandra Bullock? Not Sandra Bullock.
No.
The other female that's like Sandra Bullock, but it's not Sandra Bullock. That person. But yeah, it's a movie on Netflix, and it's basically like a giant EMP or geomagnetic storm happens, and all of technology just kind of goes bloop offline. Can't use it.
Yeah. Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that's the actor.
My apologies to the Julia Roberts fans out there. Don't want to get them confused with Sandra Bullock.
But yeah, so I mean the thing is though is in that movie, I don't know, I don't think it was the geomagnetic storm that caused all that outage. I just think it was just like our infrastructure just crashed, or based off in the movie. But I think if something's gonna happen with our infrastructure, again, we don't know what's gonna happen, but based on what the sun is doing right now, and it's really sunning, it seems likely that would be something that would cause hiccups in our technological systems based on what we have going on now.
Yes. And what was interesting too is like to think about how would people react, especially if it's like a big one, right? If it's like a big flare that really takes internet, cell service, etc. offline. For the people that didn't know it was happening ahead of time, they're not going to know what's causing that outage. But when they go to look up in the sky, it'll look pretty crazy. And when I was reading up again on like the Carrington Event back in the 1850s, a lot of people were terrified because they didn't know what a geomagnetic storm was. Like the common folk didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But when they looked up in the sky and saw a bunch of like reds and purples and things like that, they thought either the neighboring town was on fire, and so you saw like the flames from the next city over, or that the earth was ending, like wild scenarios like that. And so put yourself in a modern scenario where if you didn't get the heads up on Twitter because now you can't access it, and the local news isn't broadcasting because satellites are down and radio broadcasts are down, like you're not gonna know what's happening. You may have a best guess of like, oh yeah, that looks like, the aurora borealis, like,
right.
And you might be able to put two and two together, but for those that don't know what that is, kind of terrifying, kind of biblical in a sense.
I mean, and that's just again where, people choose what they want to keep, like obviously what they want to consume in their lives versus what they don't want to consume in their lives. So it's like, you get people out there that are like, okay, well, I don't care about science stuff. I don't care about this stuff. Like, this is stuff that could actually affect people. Like, this is stuff that can affect like your daily lives because it can affect your internet service. It can affect your cell phone usage. It can affect everything that you do. Like, even cars. Like, it can affect that. And I'm honestly surprised we didn't see anything like that going on. Like it was generally like for me, I still went about my day. Still did all the stuff I had to go do. Like, I knew it was happening. I knew it was going on, but I was like, okay, like, nothing's affected yet. But it's like, no matter what, I mean, I'd be ready with whatever happens. So,
would you be ready if it caused a certain portion of the population to receive superpowers? Think about that.
Well, it just depends on what kind of superpowers they've got. If we're talking like Homelander stuff, then yeah, no, I'm screwed. But like,
yeah, I remember there's this British television show. What was it called? Oh man, I hate that I'm blanking on this now. It's not The In-Betweeners. It's a show where you have these youth that are basically doing like community service as like a court-ordered punishment. And there's a geomagnetic storm and they get superpowers because of it. I hate that I'm going blank on what the show is right now. Hang on. It's like British show, teen superpowers. What is that called? Misfits. That's what it's called. Misfits, yeah. Misfits is a British science fiction comedy drama TV show about 5 young offenders who develop superpowers after being struck by lightning during a storm while doing community service. Yeah.
Nice.
It's basically like, it's kind of it was a pretty good show when it was on, but imagine just like, tomfoolery and like, if you're a teen that has already been arrested a couple of times and you find out you have superpowers, you take advantage of them in different ways than a good person would.
Right.
Maybe you kill a correctional officer or two. Who knows? But
yeah, it depends on what, like, again, it depends on what kind of superpowers you'd get from that. Because, like, I mean, you have to think, if you've seen any kind of superhero movie, there's definitely a lot of different superpowers to be had out there. And if, you know, if you're a fan of anime, then you've also probably definitely seen your fair share of powers out there.
yeah, no, that is true. That is true. I will say, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'll say, you go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, making it this far into the episode, if someone has already, like, let us know. Like, do you feel prepared for the next big geomagnetic storm? I feel like if this podcast were to have sponsors, this would be a really good opportunity to plug like a meal prep kit or like something that would keep you alive in the apocalypse. You know how those prepper kits where they give you like 3 years worth of meals and it's really just like a box of like dried out, dehydrated rations that you may or may not ever use, but you paid $500 for it and you'll hang on to them. Be a good plug for that right then. But in lieu of that, I would say, let us know. Leave us a comment or a response, depending on how you're watching or listening, etc. Tell us, do you feel ready for the big one? Do you? Do you feel ready?
I feel ready.
You feel ready?
I actually feel partially ready because, you know, I don't need to go buy like the $100 kits of food, because just be a normal person and just grow your own food, or just go hunting, you know, like you could still do that, you know, like you can go hunt for things, but yeah.
Do you have any food rations, or not rations, but do you have any backup food, like like oh snap type scenarios? You don't have to like over disclose in case people come ransack your house afterwards after listening to this, but
I mean, they can try. There's one way in and one way out. If they can get in past me and everything got in, you know, they can whatever they want, but
you have a fierce kitty cat at the door, so
right, yeah. No, I mean, we do. Like, I mean, it's enough for 2 people. I mean, we have other things too. Like, we're going to be kind of starting on how to, like, learn how to make our own jams, jellies, things like, you know, just basic stuff like that. And then canning and preserving, like, beans and rice and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's like, we've got stuff. It's just a process. I mean, it takes time. It takes money. So, but I know as far as, like, medical supplies, you know, ammos, guns, like, I'm good on all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can never have too much, but I'm good on all that. And then also too, like, I mean, I know how to survive if need be. Like, I can, you know, I can go kill deer. I can go kill whatever. I can go, you know, I'll go kill a cow and just skin it and process it. Like, I mean, I know how to do all that stuff. So,
but what if the outside is radioactive? What if there's nuclear fallout?
Then I will have to take a page out of the Fallout gaming series and we'll have to figure it out, you know? Like, that's essentially, that's all there's nothing I can do, because they sell those, though. Like, it's funny because they actually sell those, you could buy them on Amazon, and they're actual radioactive pills that, like, keep your, like, levels down.
Oh,
like
what
I can't think of what the name of them are.
They put it in salt sometimes. Iodine?
Is it iodine capsules?
Because it's like iodine, right?
Yeah. But they sell those on Amazon, and I'm like, who's going to spend this much money for these to outlast radioactive, like, material, like, outside? Like, just saying.
Yeah, it's iodine. It helps you prevent radiation on, like, your internals.
Yeah. Like, at this point, like, if there's radiation outside, like, I mean, there's nothing you could do. I mean, you'd have to have enough food stockpiled and have to live underground for enough time to, you know, outweigh that to go away. But even then, I don't think it'd be the case. And that's kind of one of those things, like, with the whole geomagnetic storms and stuff like that. Like, if it causes, like, our magnetic field to go out, I mean, people are like, we're going to have actual sun radiation hitting us, and it's not going to be like a nuclear radiation, like it's a solar radiation, and so it's literally going to burn your skin.
It's like living in a giant microwave.
100%. You're going to be cooked from the inside out, and you might feel chilly on the outside, just like your microwave TV dinner does.
I feel like that's a very it's a very light and happy way to end the podcast episode, is really just acknowledging that at some point in time, hopefully it wasn't this past weekend, it probably happened in the future, you'll just wake up and realize you're living in a giant microwave because a sun flare has wrapped the earth and is cooking you alive, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Any parting notes on your end?
You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble. If you like our content, we have plenty of other, videos out there. Give us a shout. Again, as my co-host here says, leave us a comment. Most importantly, if you do like our content, give us a follow. That'd be very much appreciated. And let us know your thoughts. Do you think that, 1, 2, or 3 more of these would disrupt a lot of things heavily, or do you think it's just a one-off scientific event that won't happen for another 20 to 30 years? What are your thoughts?